So my wife and I were talking last night, and the topic of what was the dumbest D&D decision ever made by them came up, and she wanted to know what I thought was the dumbest decision she ever made, and I really couldn't think of anything off the top of my head. She's always been pretty reasonable when it comes to her player decisions, but she suggested a story I completely forgot about, and I can't believe it because it was a legendary story in our group, which was the elevator incident. The elevator incident is a story that came from my first ever homebrew game where she dropped an elevator that just happened to have one of her allies that was like her little brother and one of the major bad guys into the ocean. That was quite a story, and I will be telling that story as of now. But to do that, I will have to take you back to a long forgotten time, the gory days, the golden days even, of where we were able to play D&D and actually look at each other and be friends and marry all together within the same room. At least, within 6 foot of each other. To explain a little bit more about this setting, this was a homebrew setting I made where it was in this world that was really relying on sea travel, a high seas campaign really. Yes, it was heavily based on One Piece. Look at some of these figures in the background. What do you expect from me? I love One Piece, so sue me. But, fun group, I loved it. Many people that I play with still consider it the best game I ever ran. The group consisted of a Triton monk, a Goliath barbarian, Geralt of Rivia, my wife, Stormborn Sorcerer, a half-elf rogue, and a human warlock. All a fun group. We had a lot of fun times together. And in this game in particular, they found themselves trying to get more information on the big bad guy, and they were going to the island of Song of the Sea. The island of Song of the Sea was a different island in particular. It wasn't a conventional island. It was actually an artificial island, all constructed out of wood, built over a siren's lair. And, yes, the siren ran to place. There was a lot of fun stuff going on there. And anyways, yes, they all went there to go to a brothel known as the Lady of the Night, where they were trying to find more info on what this big bad guy had going on, as an assassin from them seemed to come from this place. So with the guys, they were kind of excited about going to get information from a brothel. The girls, the build up to it was pretty funny, honestly. Them having their own ship and a crew, the crew was going wild. They were super excited because this was a pretty famous brothel. But this brothel was not all what it seemed. I'm sure you imagined that by now. It was actually a dungeon. Not the dungeon you're probably thinking of either. It was an actual dungeon. So, this place was run by the Vampire Queen in my homebrew setting. She wanted a place for humanoid monsters to be able to live and thrive, because for her view, those who kill willy-nilly, like your average lycanthrope or Strahd, whatever, they're going to give her kind of bad name. So she wanted a place for them to have a sense of community and be able to stay. And so with that, she had the brothel, which was a front for an underground prison that she ran specifically for her kind. So in this prison, there was lycanthropes, incubuses, succubuses, all sorts of creatures that made trouble on their world. They would take care of it. And with that, for those who wanted to actually live amongst human society, she would give them a home, a job. You could work in a prison, upstairs, a barkeep, a hotel servant, whatever, or, yes, they could work in a brothel. I know what you're thinking. You want your monster girls, you weirdo. Now, that is how their little society worked. And what was weird is they seemed kind of up above the level. This was very well known amongst certain circles, but the party had no idea going into it. All they knew was an assassin came from this place. So, they were going in, trying to find out what this assassin had to do with the big bad guy that they were trying to find out the identity of. And they all get in there, the crew's going wild, then the party's trying to be serious, and things get a little disorganized kind of quick. Another important detail about the security of this prison is, aside from the fact it was guarded by vampires, werewolves, devils, the like, it was pretty well secure. But there was one final security measure in case things went bad. Since this island was built over the ocean, they had the idea of there is no bottom to the elevator shaft. They have a final security measure of the only way to access the other floors is through an elevator. And they have a lockdown switch to where it drops the elevator, then bars off all the floors of the elevator. So that comes into play later, obviously. So the barbarian went to have his own little fade to black moment off screen, and then with that, the monk being 14, the party did not want him anywhere near anything else going on. So the rogue and the warlock decided, with their high charisma, they'd be the ones to go and try and get information. So they went to get a room with two of the people working there, see if they can get some information out of them. Around that time, they did some things to tip them off that something may be a little off. The barbarian, he got lucky. He just seemed like a normal patron there, so they set him up with a werewolf in disguise as a human. He was none the wiser. He doesn't even know it was a werewolf. He's probably just going to find out now if he watches this video. The rogue and the warlock, though, after some failed wisdom saves, they found themselves captured and in the Vampire Queen's prison. Just leaving Geralt of Rivia and the monk sitting alone in the bar, a bit confused, along with my wife sorcerer, as they watched their pirate crew kinda going a bit buck wild in the bar. So, Barbarian, fresh out of the room, notices that some crew members are missing, and there's still some people at the bar. They all get together and realize, hey, something may be off here. So they all go to the room that they went to have their investigation, and they don't find anyone there. So after some investigation rolls, they're able to find out that there are some secret rooms and passages through the rooms. They go down a few of them secret passages and find a prison. After meeting with some of the guards, having a little bit of negotiations, once they find out that some of their crew members and some of their party members have been captured and taken to this prison, they end up in the Vampire Queen's court to talk things out, and they're able to get along for pretty good. After some insight rolls, they discern her intentions don't seem to be bad, at least not hostile toward them, and they agree with her motivations overall and want to know what's going on. They find out that a Rakshasa is actually taken up in this prison recently and has threatened to expose them and attack them and pretty much destroy everything they had worked for unless they let him take up residency there. And he was taking a few of the prisoners and making assassins out of them. So that's their deal. Take out the Rakshasa, she lets them all go free and assist them on their quest. And they all get down to the bottom floor of the prison. They have a good old fight with the Rakshasa, who I'm just going to call Sean Connery for the rest of this, because I was doing a bad Sean Connery impersonation the entire time with him. It was fun. After an entire crazy fight, and also my wife using Thunderstep directly on the head of Rakshasa, Super Marioing him to hell and back, they were doing pretty good against him and his followers. So he had his followers cover his retreat, and Rakshasa went to the elevator to ride it up and escape, because at that point, I planned on him being a recurring villain. I liked the idea of him, and I had this idea that throughout the story he's going to be trying to thwart them. Of course, when you plan something like that, the party doesn't have that. And I know what you're thinking. Reddit mentioned it pretty often, as they want to know, imagine this in all caps, why didn't he use plane shift? Downvote, 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 downvote. So, you know what's not dramatic? Disappearing like that. Know what I thought would be a cool dramatic moment? Him riding up the elevator as he taunts the enemies as he goes on. Driving home that spite that I wanted him to feel toward this Catman thing. Yeah. The party didn't want that. So, the monk, with his stupid speed that all monks have, he was able to make it in the elevator before it shut down. So they're trapped in the elevator together. The party is occupied and can't do anything else. But the sorcerer, seeing the elevator, she has the bright idea that my wife has. And she's like, hey, can I see the chains of the elevator? From the angle she was at, she could. So I'm like, yeah, sure, why? And she said she wanted to cast Shatter at a 5th level on the elevator's chains specifically. Those who have dealt with Shatter before know constructs have disadvantage on their saves for Shatter. So, the elevator chains failed their DC, and she snapped elevator chains, causing the elevator to drop in the ocean as the elevator drops past her, hearing her monk scream why as it happens. Oh boy. And it timed just perfectly to where the Rakshasa just went, was trying to fight off the monk. Elevator drops. It's down to Monk's turn. If you forgot earlier, the monk's a Triton. The monk just entered his favorite terrain, as there's now an elevator sinking to the bottom of the ocean with a wet cat demon and a Triton inside of it. So, in one round, through a flurry of blows, the Triton was able to knock the Rakshasa past his HP, non-lethal damaging it to where it was just unconscious. So now, still sinking an elevator with a drowning cat demon, but was unconscious. So, through a strength check, was able to break through the elevator. First round. Second, gets the Rakshasa out, and as it's making death saves, is able to circle breathing it mouth to mouth, keep the Rakshasa alive as he's swimming to the surface. He succeeded a medicine check, and he was the group's medic, so I let it happen. I'm thinking, okay, the Rakshasa can get away eventually. I forgot a one crucial detail, that the monk also had dimensional shackles on him. So once they got him on it, he couldn't teleport. So, the Rakshasa comes to, in his own prison, a poetic prison of his own making. Can't teleport. Rakshasa's main thing is when they die, they pretty much come back for vengeance. They didn't kill him, so he's just stuck there with this vampire queen that really hates him. So what my wife considered her dumbest decision, it was a risky decision, that's for sure, ended up really saving them in the end. And that is, yeah, that's that story. In the end, I still consider that one of my favorite D&D games, and that was probably still my favorite dungeon I've ever made. That was just a really fun dungeon to me. It didn't go the way I expected it to at all, to say the least, but it was fun. And I mean, that happens sometimes where players will completely throw any plan you have on its wayside and do what they want. So that's just a good example of it. But it was a lot of fun. I liked a lot of NPCs that were introduced in that little arc, and it was just a fun little adventure for the players to have. And it's left me with this thing that I now know. Don't always go for the dramatic, lest be downvoted to death. If you like this video, remember to like, comment, subscribe. I still have hardly any of you that are watching these videos being subscribed. Come on, guys. What do I need to do? I'm kidding, but seriously, if you want more of these videos, like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell, whatever you do on YouTube these days. I don't know. But you want more of these D&D stories, let me know in the comments down below. I'm thinking of doing more of these because first content I really made on the internet for the D&D side was actually D&D stories on Reddit. And now that I'm finding this backlog of stories that were pretty fun, I think I may tell more of them. I enjoyed them. They were a lot of fun. And yeah, you guys seem to like them. So, want more stories like this, let me know. I'll see you all in the next video. Bye.